Thank you very much for taking the time to come this afternoon. This is a short webinar which will be explaining the background, the rationale, and the methodology of the joint inspections of services for children and young people subject to compulsory supervision orders living at home with their parents. With me on this presentation is Sean Burns, Strategic Inspector, Chris Lum, Chief Inspector, Elena Mills and Pat Naples are providing the invaluable support in the background, and thank you very much to them. The chat function and the cameras are off during the course of this webinar. We will take questions though at the end, so please use the question and answer function, and we'll be looking at that as we progress through the webinar this afternoon. This will be recorded and we'll make sure that that is available on our website within the next few days. We may not be able to answer all your questions, so we will do that by way of a frequently answered questions page on the website as well. So we do want to capture everything, but with the time that we have, we're just acknowledging that we may not. This is a joint inspection, and I'd like to welcome and acknowledge the input from our scrutiny partners from HMICS, HIS and Education Scotland, and I'm very glad to welcome those colleagues to the call as well. Some of them have really helped in developing this methodology, so thank you to all of you. So we're going to go through the purpose, the background and the context to these inspections. We'll then look at the scope, the range of what we want to cover. We'll look at the stages of inspection and then focus a little bit on our approach to children and young people's involvement. So next slide, please, and I'll hand over to Sean now, who will explain the background and the context. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Jackie. So just a little bit more detail in terms of the background and context. Our website covers the inspection methodology and it provides some more information on the key stages of inspection. So we won't go through it all in granular detail here. The inspections are being conducted within the context of the promise. So that's that care experienced children and young people will grow up feeling loved, safe and respected. Our overview report of joint inspections for children and young people in need of care and protection told us that most looked after children and young people had experienced some improvement in their well-being as a result of the support that they received. Overall, children looked after in foster care experienced most improvement, and those who were looked after at home showed the least improvement. And partnerships found it more difficult to evidence improvements in the well-being of looked after children and young people. And we found that the collaborative leadership of child protection was stronger than it was for corporate parenting. So as part of this work, we've undertaken an extensive literature review and we focused on health, education and well-being outcomes for looked after children and young people, including those who are looked after at home. We've reviewed available data, and that's included the education outcomes for looked after children and children's social work statistics. So we're not continuing with our scrutiny focus on children at risk of harm. These inspections were initiated in response to the pandemic, but we will continue to consider child protection under a future public protection approach to scrutiny. Okay, next slide, please. Jackie will take us through the scope of the inspection.
Thanks, Sean. So by considering, we want to really focus on the experiences of children on compulsory supervision orders for the reasons that Sean has outlined there. And this is children who are living at home with their parents. And the focus of this inspection is really to highlight the quality of support for these children and their families. So it'll be really key to us that we have the opportunity to hear from as many people as we do these inspections as we can. One of the foundations of the promise the family foundation. Again, in that, support for families staying together is highlighted, and the emphasis there is placed on the importance of providing timely support to ensure children can stay in their families wherever it's safe to do so. And, you know, it hasn't been an area we've focused on strongly till now. So it's a very good opportunity just to look at all the stages of that support and what decisions are made at different stages as children remain on a compulsory supervision order at home. We'll be looking at the 2-year period, which people will be used to. That's our normal span that we look at. And we appreciate that during those 2 years, there will be children and young people who've been referred to the reporter, who've been on an interim compulsory supervision order and are on a full compulsory supervision order, or indeed have come off that order during that period. We'll focus on 3 key lines of inquiry, and we will evaluate 4 quality indicators. So the lines of inquiry will form our narrative. They'll enable us to tell the story of how services are being delivered for this group of children and young people, and to really highlight the quality of that support. And they'll be backed up by 4 evaluations of the quality indicators. Next slide, please. So these are the key lines of inquiry, and while I'm aware that you can all read them, I will just go through them. Children and young people are well supported to live with their families. This support helps to keep them safe, overcome difficulties, and make positive difference in their lives. So we're capturing the foundation of the promise there about living with their families. And while, as Sean said, that we aren't focusing on children at risk of harm, we're very keen that we have safety in this line of inquiry so that we're not losing a focus upon that. The second key line of inquiry is very much the twofold involvement around children and young people having a say in how their services are planned and delivered, and also in the more strategic aspect of that, at how the views of children, young people and parents are meaningfully listened to, heard and included. So that is a familiar part of our previous methodology, that twofold focus upon children and young people's involvement. And thirdly, we will be focusing on how leaders and managers work well together to create and maintain a joined up system of care which delivers the right services to each child at the right time. And this will provide children and young people and the workforce with both help, support and accountability. Next slide, please. And these are the quality indicators that we will be evaluating. 2.1, the all-important impact on children and young people. Then we'll be looking at 5.3, which is around the care planning, management of risk and effective interventions. So how plans are being constructed, how they're being reviewed, how any risk is managed, supported, and what interventions are being undertaken to keep children and young people safely at home with their families. Due to the second key line of inquiry there that was on the previous slide about the focus on the views of children and young people and how they're included, we're going to be evaluating quality indicator 5.4, which is about involving individual children, young people and families. And finally, 9.2, about leadership of strategy and direction. Next slide, please. So the stages of inspection, these will be familiar to most people who've been through an inspection or helped prepare for one, or just are familiar with what our methodology has been over the last while. With this inspection cycle, the footprint will be slightly shorter. It's around 20 weeks rather than 24, and that there won't be a break. There will be less of a build-in time maybe for us in preparation, but not taking away from what you need to be able to do yourselves. But hopefully that shorter footprint will be experienced well. Rather than the current position statement that partnerships have been preparing for us, there will be a shorter, more concise request for specific documents to be sent in with a shorter narrative that will be more concise. So again, not such a time heavy, hopefully, situation for yourselves. We won't be calling it a position statement, but it'll answer some of those things that the current one has done. And that will be really important for us to help with the initial analysis and scoping of what we want to do further on during the inspection. We'll have a children, young people survey, a parent survey, and one for staff. We've had an opportunity to pilot the record reading template that we'll be using. That will change. It will be specific to this group of children and young people, and is very much focused on the different stages of the journey that they will take through the compulsory supervision order process. So we will read up to 60 records. That obviously won't make sense should we be going to any smaller areas, and we will take a view on the amount of cases that we get returned in the pre-inspection return and decide what is proportionate for any individual areas. For larger areas, up to 60 would again be the guide point, but we'll just have to see what the numbers are with any individual areas that we go to. We'll then, when we do the record reading again with local record readers, there'll be 15 records that the team will focus on, that will highlight thematic areas that we will then want to filter down into 5 networks of support that we meet with. So less than during the current inspections, but 5 where we'll really focus on what the professionals, the families, and the young people and children are telling us about their lives and about their experiences. The other 10 out of that 15 will be given the opportunity to meet with us. And after my next bullet point, Sean will give a bit more flavour about how we'd like to work with partnerships to make that happen. Finally, during the engagement phase, we will be reducing the need to do such an in-depth timetable with yourselves, due to the focus being as it is with this group of children and young people. We would like to have 5 focus groups, 1 focusing on governance, 1 on leadership and management, 1 on those people who are making decisions at the different stages of a compulsory supervision order, frontline workers, and then there'll be the networks of support with staff and meetings with children, young people, and parents. Those 5 focus groups fit very neatly with the key lines of inquiry and the quality indicators that we'll be evaluating. So a lot of that should be familiar for most people about how we've delivered methodology in the last 4 or 5 years, indeed before that as well. But my point with this would be, due to the population of this group of children and young people, we may find that some of those, the conciseness will really help us get what we need, and you to be able to show us what you want us to see about practice in your partnership. Sean, over to you. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Jackie. So just thinking a bit more about our approach to involvement, we'll be taking an enhanced approach to participation during these inspections, and we really want to maximise how we hear the voices of children, young people and their families. So to help us do that, we'll be identifying a participation lead from the inspection team, and we'll ask the partnership to identify a lead for participation at the point of inspection notification as well. So that should be someone with experience on leading on participation and involvement in the partnership area. So in week 2 of the inspection, so a very early stage, the participation leads will meet along with our young inspection volunteers and anyone else who the partnership feels has got a key role in participation of those who are looked after at home. So, for example, that might include reviewing officers or advocacy staff. We'll focus on inspection activities and arrangements already in place within partnership areas to listen to children and young people who are looked after at home and their families and their parents as well. And that's about their experience of the services that support them. The participation leads will work together throughout the whole inspection process, and they might find it helpful to develop a plan as a framework for those contacts, and that will include how the inspection team can be involved in any participation and involvement activities already planned within the partnership, and how we can best focus and support the inspection activities during the inspection process. Next slide, please. So the notification for the first inspection will be in the middle of August. As Jackie said, we'll develop a frequently asked questions section and post that on our website.